Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm Kylie Buckley and I'm with David Riddell from Living Wisdom. I'd like to read something to you. The journey into total mental health begins with a commitment to come out of delusion into reality, no matter what the cost. And David, we've got this REBT that you mentioned in a previous video, which is rational emotive behavioral therapy, cognitive therapy. Would you like to explain what that is and how it helps us all if we could get this as part of our life skills?
Well, Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. Unfortunately, he didn't quite tell us how to go about examining it. Jesus said the truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm.
Psychologists tell us that it's rather like a four-story building in a basement. So when you go to see your counselor, you begin by relating the story, and the story is the behavior, the story is the words spoken and the decisions made and the outcome, and that's really the behavioral aspect of REBT, which stands for rational emotive behavioral therapy. But this is the fourth floor. If we stop at the fourth floor and don't dig down at all, we end up in behaviorism, which becomes self-righteousness, which becomes try harder, which becomes legalism, which becomes behaviorism, and which basically doesn't work because people don't change simply because you tell them to. Try harder is not the gospel, although it may be all that our society really knows. Because underneath the behavior are the emotions. And if I am frustrated, angry, irritated, raging, I'm going to cause chaos. That's what rage does. And if I am depressed, I'm going to become discouraged and lack motivation, energy, and enthusiasm. That's what depression does. And if I become anxious, then I'm going to be frightened of anything and everything. And even my fears will rotate as life hits me from behind, from front and left and center. So we've got to get below the feelings. Now, down below them, we have the self-talk, the thoughts of the mind, the stewings of the innermost heart. We have the narrative that we're talking to ourselves about and how we're going to get this person and avoid this person and succeed in life and fail in life, and how we're competent and fabulous or how we're a loser that lacks any talent. It's all going on there at the level of thinking. But that's not the bottom level. The ground floor, you might say, are the beliefs that are driving all of this. Beliefs that we've been coming to in the form of conclusions by their thousands since we were children. You can watch children come into conclusions about life. You can watch puppies come into conclusions about life. Every living thing, it works out of a given range of beliefs. And challenging those beliefs is a big part of useful therapy. But here's the problem. That's all cognitive. In other words, those are the beliefs you know you've got. And you either believe them or you don't. And you already have a pretty good idea of whether the earth is round or flat and whether evolution is a product of rebellious people who don't want to submit to God, or whether it's science and scientifically evidenced. You already have a pretty good idea of whether you've got any success with the ladies or the men, or at work, or financial beliefs and ownership of houses, etc. You've got thousands of beliefs in your constellation and in your paradigm. But we're still not there, even when they've got those sorted, because underneath those is the realm of the subconscious. And this really is the mass that drives the iceberg from under the water. It's a strange thing, they tell me, to see an iceberg traveling hard against the wind. What's it got, a rocket or an underground motor? Well, no, it's actually the current moving that iceberg against the wind without any problem at all. And your subconscious could be likened to the current that's moving you ever steadily towards success or failure, towards faith or atheism, towards enthusiasm or disillusionment, towards escapist activities like drug and alcohol or sexual conquests and addictions, or towards success in a life of respect and dignity and having credibility and status in your community. Mm-hmm. And this current that's moving you towards success or failure is also moving you towards materialistic success or failure, housing success or failure, relationship success or failure, and of course, in faith or not as well. So my job is to listen to my client and try and take them down the steps of self-awareness until they can finally change their mind at a relevant, useful, purposeful, and absolutely necessary level before success will come to them. And until they make those radical discoveries, Kylie, they are going to remain addicted, remain on the Ferris wheel of life, running and running and running, remain chasing their tail, remain living in pointlessness, just trying to make a living. Life is supposed to be much more than that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, you got to get out of the bed and remake it to get comfortable. If you don't believe that you need a counselor or a therapist to help you with this, then I challenge you when your bed's in a mess to remake it while you're still in it. It's the picture I often get of people who don't want help, don't want to see a professional, don't want to get any good advice. They want to yarn to their mates and chew the fat with their girlfriends, but really they're trying to remake the bed without getting out of it. And that's not going to be very successful, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
After all, if you're the cause of the problem, what makes you think you'll have the solution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Is
right.
that too harsh? I'm getting old and too old to beat around the bush here.
Yeah,
There's 100 ways to do something, but usually only one of them is really the right way.
Yeah. Well, I've just read here, is my mind my friend or my enemy?
It's a fair question, isn't it?
We all need to ask ourselves that, really. And we might think it's our friend because it's.
And you might want to ask yourself, if your mind is your enemy and your mind does turn against you, where are you going to go to hide? Because the damn thing is going to follow you. Oh, yeah. And that's why people do escapist activities. They're trying to hide from their bad conscience or their own doom and gloom, their pessimism, or their scary memories. Where are you going to go when your own mind turns against you? I hope you go to faith and living wisdom, because they'll never fail you. They will never fail you.
Completely changed my life.
I'm working on it.
Well, I wish I had done this years ago, but better late than never.
I do hear that a lot.
Here's a good question. What is the payoff for holding on to a misbelief? Really?
Such a good question. Quick fixes are attractive. Quick fixes have an appeal. Soft options seem to get you there faster. And false comforters move in and block the pain and block the trouble. But in reality, they carry a sting in their tail. And on their way through, they'll have a go at you, because false comforters and quick fixes and soft options are the way of losers. And what is a loser? It's somebody who can't do delayed gratification. They can't stay at school long enough to get a qualification. They can't stay under an employer long enough to build a skill that's in demand. They can't stay in a relationship long enough to learn how to love in the face of aggression or hostility. Quick fixes are destined to become life losers because they've never built the resilience or the ability to do delayed gratification. Now, it's all very well for you to watch me sitting here pontificating about this stuff. People do not realize I'm the first male in our family for 3 generations who hasn't become an addict, who hasn't done prison time, who got school certificate and actually graduated with a degree. That just doesn't really happen and never did happen in our family. But I've needed to refather myself to grasp these skills. And that began with a determination to know the truth, to practice the truth, to follow the truth, and to learn the skill of success in life. I've been 70 years doing that. And now I like to teach it and share it and train people in all corners of the world by visiting them by Skype, by Zoom, and by sending out my own students to pick up the vision and take it to where I could never go. And it's happening, Kylie. It's happening. It's very gratifying for an old fellow like me to see it.
Well, that's why we're doing what we're doing, because it's so important and it's so powerful. The truth really is, guys, like turning the light bulb on, it chases the darkness away. And what you've been bottling up or thinking, which has actually caused you difficulty and harm, even without you knowing it, disappears. It goes. And that's what happened with me on a number of occasions. But my big one was guilt and shame I was carrying for something that was nothing to do with me. Cause it, and I carried it all my life for 45 years. It has affected my life dreadfully, but now it's gone. Honestly, I just feel so light and I've changed. I can't put a word on it.
Yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. But you spend the first years of your life looking into broken mirrors and you don't know they're as broken as they are. Of course, you take it personally. Of course, you take the crack into yourself, and then the trouble really starts because no one can live believing they're cracked, not well anyway, not abundantly, not the abundant life that Jesus promised anybody who believes him.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, that's why this is so good. We've got to share it. Okay, so let's look at this. Trace it, face it, and then replace it.
Well, trace the lie, trace the wrong conclusion you came to as a little kid, trace what you learned about sex or divorce from mummy and daddy, trace what you learned at school about winners and losers and them that come first and then that come last. Trace those conclusions and find the ones that are working against you and then face them and ask yourself, is this true or is this not true? What I learned about girls, what I learned about boys, what I learned about my ability at arithmetic or reading or writing or spelling, what I learned about people, is it true or is it not true? And eventually replace it with the truth. And you say, well, where do we find the truth? I've been constructing pithy, brief truth coaches for that very purpose, to antidote lies in people's minds and hearts. And I've been composing and finding those truth coaches now for the last 40 years. And I called it Daily Insights. Put closer to you, not further away. It disappears. There we go. And so you can get Daily Insights from the website, www.livingwisdom. And there's just boxes and boxes of penicillin for infection. There's pages and pages of insights for sexuality, for relationships, for depression, for anxiety. And they're all antidotes to that ugly stuff called misbeliefs. Remember, an insight a day keeps the shrink away.
It's true. The unexamined life is never the abundant life. It is a crazy life lived in reaction to the people who can pull your strings and press your buttons. Constant frustration with others might have its pause in your own inability to acknowledge your superiority. In value, we are equals, but not in ability. And there's so many of these. While stubbornness doesn't guarantee success, a weak will always guarantee failure, and persistence is still more valuable than intelligence. And it just goes on and on. We've got many of them.
It's a deep well. It's a deep well. If you need a drink, there's plenty of thirst quenching water in that well.
Yes. And you know, guys, it's really good when things come during our day to just stop and analyze yourself. Sort of go outside yourself and think about your thoughts and think about why you're about to say or do, or why you did say or do, good and not good, and analyze yourself. You'd be amazed at what you find, especially when you marry it up with some of these truth coaches. Yeah.
You know, the truth will set you free to enter heaven, but first it can hurt like hell, just as any antiseptic or astringent does.
But only you have the power to heal you, really, and the Father, of course. But you have to, you've got to face it. Yeah, and it does. There's only one way, and that's up. Okay, so well, we'll leave it there with that. I need to turn the light on. The sun's fading here, and I'm getting darker. So thank you, David. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you
My
next
pleasure.
time for
Thank
Life
you.
is for Living.
God bless.
Bye.
Good night.